Hey everybody, welcome back to BobkeTV. Time once again for the Broom Wagon. Yeah, baby! Got a lot of ground to cover on this week's Broom Wagon. Tons of race action, the good, the bad, and the ugly from all the races. The neutral zone news coming up. Of course, the Musette Musings and everybody's favorite, the tweet of the week. All of that coming up on the Broom Wagon. All right, let's get into the racing. First up, Tour of Valencia. Nairo Quintana stomping the Queen stage. A tough climb to finish off that stage was a Mas de la Costa climb. Grizzly steep at the top, last 2 kilometers, just straight up into the stratosphere. Nobody able to match Nairo Quintana in the Tour of Valencia this year. Kudos Merhawi from Dimension Data was the closest rider, and a great ride by Merhawi. So Merhawi, good riding by the climber from the direct Dimension Data team. Sorry, Direct Energy, Dimension Data. We'll get to the Direct Energy riders in a minute. But he was second on the stage, the Eritrean pro. Everybody else in Nairo Quintana's dust just killed everybody. BMC won the team time trial. We can, I think, agree that they are the preeminent team time trialing squad on earth. Gives their riders a big advantage any stage race that contains a team time trial. Tony Martin, his first win for his new squad, the Katusha team. So Tony Martin on fire. Not a time trial, a road stage, just one solo. Took off and time trial to the finish line for a great solo win. And the bad, Nasser Boweni, shut out by Magnus Cort and Brian Cocard in the sprint stages. Nasser not firing just yet, did not come up with any wins in the Tour of Valencia, but Nairo Quintana most certainly did. He joins Richie Porte and Bauke Mollema as having won stage races to start their seasons. And what this means to me is that Nairo Quintana is all in for the Giro d'Italia. He is obviously on good form. He still has plenty of races and days to get ready for the Giro, and I think he'll be the man to beat in the Giro d'Italia. And I think that he's realized, along with the Movistar squad, that Chris Froome is too hard to beat in the Tour de France, the way the format is laid out for Nairo Quintana, and that Nairo's talents are perfectly suited for the Giro d'Italia. So those two realizations, I think Nairo is very prudent in going for the Giro 100%. I don't think he'll be able to match Froome in the Tour de France, and I think he's going to also have a tough time getting on the podium. So I'm going to stick with my original prediction, Richie Porte, Froome's #1 competition in the Tour, along with Alberto Contador. So that's your podium in the Tour. And Nairo, I don't see anybody beating him in the Giro d'Italia this year. All right. Not so great for Sky either at Valencia, with Walter Poels finishing 4th. He was able to win last year and had a brilliant season, so starting a little bit slower in this year's race calendar. So Team Sky not getting the win that they had last year. Let's move on to the Sun Tour. Damien Howson for the Orica squad, who I thought was the best team in 2016. Had an incredible year the whole season, and starting off this year with a great win by Damien Howson. Hasn't had a win at all in 3+ years, and has never won a stage race in his career. So a great win. And that is a good example of the team spirit of Orica. We saw Matty Heyman, not a pre-race favorite by any stretch of the imagination, winning Paris-Roubaix last year. And so everybody gets a chance to win on the Orica squad, and that's so good. Essential for the morale of each rider. That way they can sacrifice themselves when somebody else is trying for the win, like Esteban Chavez will be in the Vuelta a España. So great ride by Damien Howson to get a brilliant GC win in the Sun Tour. The good also for Sky, Danny Van Poppel, stage win. Ian Stannard, big stage win, even though, if you look at the video, almost blew it by celebrating too early. I've been there a few times myself. And Luke Rowe, a great stage win also. And from the United States, Travis McCabe United Healthcare Squad. A brilliant sprint win in the field sprint. So Travis McCabe getting it done, and a big result there against the best in the world for Travis McCabe in the sprint.
You always get that high when you win, and this was no different. I mean, in January, coming out here with a race and coming out with a win is awesome. So I'm over the moon with it right now.
And the bad Froome not winning, not defending his title from the Sun Tour last year. First time since 2012, he hasn't come up with his first stage win of the year going his way and winning. So a little bit of a change for Chris Froome. To the positive, though, he was able to go out and train, not being in the leader's jersey, and put in extra mile after some of the stages. And so in the long run, Tour de France especially, it might be in Froome's favor the way the Herald Sun Tour turned out this year. Time will tell. The Dubai Tour, Marcel Kittel on fire, 3 stage wins. To the good also John Degenkolb, his first win of the year for his new team, Trek Segafredo. So great sprint win by John Degenkolb. The bad Mark Cavendish shut out. No wins for Cav. You won't be pleased about that. 4 chances, 0 wins. Not ideal for Cavendish. And that brings us to the ugly, and why Kittel wasn't able to sprint against Degenkolb on stage number 3. He had a fist fight with a rider called Andrei Grifko of the Astana squad, who we remember from last year's Tour de France. Deep in the Tour, I think it was stage 19, arguing with his own teammate, Diego Rosa, about what kind of tempo should be being set at the front of the field. But a much more egregious violation of the rules by Andrei Grifko in the Dubai Tour, punching Marcel Kittel in the face during a heated battle for position in the crosswinds, which is a part of bike racing. You have to defend your position, and there's some leaning into riders, and there is some overlapping of wheels, and some that's just normal behavior during crosswind battles. And Marcel Kittel at that point was leading the race, so pretty desperate to get into the front echelon. And Andrei Grifko punching Marcel Kittel in the face broke his glasses. Could have been a lot worse than it was. Cut Marcel Kittel above his eye. But if a chunk of polycarbonate had gone into Marcel Kittel's eye, it could have been a lot worse. The UCI kicked Grifko out of the race, and initially Marcel Kittel said that the apology was woefully inadequate, and that not only should Grifko be kicked out of the Dubai Tour, but also be given a 6-month suspension. And I thought at the time when I read that, it was like, oh gosh, that's a little bit harsh. Maybe a month, maybe 6 weeks, but 6 months seemed like a lot. Until I read Grifko's response. Grifko failed to mention in his open letter to the sport, to his sponsors, to the UCI, that he punched Marcel Kittel in the face. So it remains to be seen if the UCI will take further action against Andrei Grifko, but I think a 3-month suspension is the minimum they should throw at Grifko. Because if you let this go on, if you don't give any substantial penalty for fistfighting in bike races, and let's be realistic, this is incredibly dangerous, not just for the person you punch, but for all the riders around you. And you can only imagine if Kittel had responded accordingly, if Marcel Kittel retaliated at the moment by throwing punches at Andrei Grifko, it would have been a much more dangerous situation for all the riders in the peloton. And you just can't tolerate that. You absolutely can't have that. And the UCI, unless they give a more significant suspension to Grifko, has not done their job once again. Thanks a lot. Okay, let's move on to the Étoile Bessèges, an opening stage race in the French calendar. The overall was won by Lilian Calmejean of the Direct Energy team. Great stage win in the Vuelta last year in a very tough, hilly, mountainous stage. So Lilian Calmejean another young, up-and-coming French stage racer. So put that name on your radar and see what he can do. And maybe he has a good Tour de France and joins the likes of Romain Bardet and Thibaut Pinot as GC contenders from France. So great ride by Lilian Calmejun. Stage wins by Arnaud Demar and Alexander Kristoff as well, and Tony Galopin coming up with a time trial win in the Étoile Bessèges. So the race season is underway, everybody. We're full steam ahead. All right, next up is the Neutral Zone News. Alrighty, first up in the Neutral Zone News, the retirement of a legend. Sad to say that Graham Watson will be hanging up his lenses. The preeminent cycling photographer for going on 38 years. Graham Watson's been in the game so long. He even filmed me when I was a bike racer. That's going way back. This photo actually taken in Paris-Roubaix by Graham Watson. So Graham, gonna miss you, but best of luck in all your future endeavors. Long may you reign. It'll be a long time before anybody reaches your level as far as photographing professional bike races. And best of luck to Graham Watson. Also, another Brit, Bradley Wiggins. I don't want to say I told everybody so, but a few Broom Wagons ago, I mentioned that it might not be the most prudent decision for Bradley Wiggins to go on a reality show where contestants that are celebrities compete against each other in ski racing events. So Bradley Wiggins injuring his ankle. When asked whether he would carry on or not, Bradley Wiggins said, "I most certainly will. The show must go on." And when asked if he was worried about it, this is what Bradley had to say, if he was worried about competing in ski racing. "No, not at all. People go skiing and hurt themselves all the time." It's the nature of the sport. So that's what I thought when I said maybe Bradley Wiggins should go on a more pedestrian reality show, but he's still hanging in there, and let's hope that's the total extent of his injuries. He gets over this one very quickly and does not hurt himself further. Okay, also in the Neutral Zone News, Geraint Thomas. Wow, a very Brit-centric the Neutral Zone News coming to us from England, Great Britain, this week around. Geraint Thomas is going to go to the Giro because, according to him and his coach, Tim Kerrison, he believes he can win. They've crunched the numbers. They have an Italian bike sponsor, Pinarello, Italian clothing sponsor, Castelli. They have a channel, Sky Italia, and so it's important for Team Sky to go there and do well. But I don't think that Geraint Thomas can win the Giro, especially not this year. I don't think he'll beat Nairo Quintana. I don't think he'll beat Vincenzo Nibali. I don't think he'll beat Fabio Aru. I don't think he'll beat Bauke Mollema. I don't think he'll beat Stefan Kruijswijk, and it would be a miracle if he found himself in the top 10 at the end of the Giro. Giro is not like the Tour. Giro, it does not suit what thus far we've seen Geraint Thomas's attributes to be. The Tour climbs, I feel, suit him better physiologically, the climbs of the Tour de France and the climbs of the Giro. And until I'm proven wrong, which it's fine with me, if G. Thomas is stopping in the Giro and wins, I'll find a hat and I will eat my hat if Geraint Thomas wins this year's Giro. So mark my words, it's not that far away. It starts early May, so we will know soon enough whether or not G. Thomas is going to win the Giro. But I think that's wishful thinking and more propaganda than reality on the part of Team Sky. Don't tell Garrett I said that either. Let's hope that he can do his best and not have extra incentive by trying to get revenge on the naysayers of his Giro win. Anyway. anyways, up next, and we got some doozies again this week for the Musette Musings. Okie dokie, first up on the Musette Musings, Dave Brailsford responding to Nicole Cook's allegations of sexism within British cycling when David Brailsford was involved, and commented on liberally in the last few Musette Musings and Broom Wagon. So Dave Brailsford taking to the airways to respond to Nicole Cook. First thing he said, "We are not sexist, we are definitely medalist," which I don't know if that's the correct use of the word. Be that as it may, we get the gist of it. Also, he said, "If you demonstrate you can win medals, you will keep your funding." So by that, I believe, meaning as long as you're successful, British cycling will continue to support you, which that's legitimate. And he goes on to say that he is compassionately ruthless, which also I'm not sure if that's, I'm not a linguist, but could you be a magnanimous murderer? I don't know if those two, compassion and ruthlessness, I'm not sure how they go together. But Nicole Cook had very specific allegations, which I have no reason to doubt, and backed up by a number of other women in the British cycling system, including Victoria Pendleton and Jess Varnish and Emma Pooley. So Nicole Cook, whose allegations were not addressed by Dave Brailsford in this instance, and the essence of what Brailsford is saying is that as long as I'm successful, I am above the law. Because of my success and because of the medals won, because of the titles won, that Dave Brailsford can act however he wants, which is disappointing. And as part of the reason why I asked for him to step down from Team Sky's management position. And, you know, to be honest, if you want titles, how about World Road Racing Champion that Nicole Cook is? And Olympic gold medalist in the women's road race also. So, not sure how you can justify your actions in order to repudiate what a rider has said and use the excuse of being successful when that rider has been as successful as any woman in professional cycling recently. So Dave Brailsford hiding under the banner of medals, which are quite staggering in British cycling. But no matter how successful you are, no matter how many titles and medals you win, it does not make it acceptable to have an environment of discrimination and sexism that a number of riders have criticized British cycling of being. So we'll see. I'm sure we've not heard the end of this, but I would have expected, maybe expected is the wrong word. I would have hoped that Dave Brailsford would have a more reconciliatory tone, but he's not, doesn't believe he's done anything wrong. And that is the main problem right there. And that will enable the system of sexism and discrimination to continue and to be handed down. And courageous people have to step forward, like Nicole Cook, to prevent that from happening. All right. We'll see. Dave Brailsford, I'm going to reiterate this, should step down, should be asked to leave from management of Team Sky if that's the type of environment that he encourages and makes excuses for. Okay, enough of that for the moment. Well, I have a feeling we haven't heard the end of that for this year. Also, in the Musette Musings, a lot of races are being canceled. Cholet is canceled. Tour of Turkey is in jeopardy also. They're not going to be in the spring as they have been for many years, and that begs the question, is the professional calendar too crowded with races all over the world? Brian Cookson has said that it's of vital importance that the sport of cycling become more international, that the races reach more and newer countries, and I'm going to agree with him on this point. I would say that there shouldn't be races, big races, going on simultaneously. That this is a great example. This week's Broom Wagon, we've got 4 big races to cover, and it does spread the peloton all over the world a little bit thin, and races like the Tour of the Med have very little chance to stay in existence. And Cholet, Tour of Turkey, and it's a scramble to get the best races. Tour of Langkawi apparently is in trouble. It's just very tough to get the races. And simultaneously, the UCI in recent years has called for a reduction in the roster size of the team. So if they're going to say, and I'll take exception to this with Brian Cookson, we're going to have races, we're going to promote races all over the world, and we want the biggest teams and best riders to participate in those, and at the same time have less riders in order to do that. There's no way there's any team that could field an adequate squad. This week is a perfect example. Australia, Spain, France, races all over and the Middle East in Dubai. So how exactly do you expect to reduce the number of riders and still promote the globalization of cycling? So pick one, Brian Cookson, one or the other. You're on the right track with the globalization of cycling. Stick to that, and enable the teams to do that, and give the teams the resources and the support and the roster size and the development so that they can have enough racers to cover all the most important races. And if some of the smaller European races throughout the season fail to attract enough sponsors, enough viewers, enough spectators to be sustainable, it's not, in my way of thinking, a great tragedy for the sport if they go away. Obviously, the Giro d'Italia, Vuelta, Tour de France, pretty safe. Probably going to have those. Paris-Roubaix, Liège-Bastogne-Liège, the classics, and the Grand Tours and the World Championships. So that part of the schedule is pretty safe. And the rest of the schedule is a work in progress still. All right, everybody, up next, the tweet of the week. Okie dokie, everybody. Alrighty, tweet of the week coming to us from my co-commentator at Tour de France, Christian Vandeveld. Still looking for a motor. And it would seem as if Christian has one of his old race bikes from the U.S. Postal days, a Trek. It looks like the Postal livery. BMC water bottles, so maybe that explains the rest of the tweet. I even wrote it today and dropped George and Kathy, but that doesn't say much. Now, I have it on good authority that Christian is generally on the receiving end of being dropped by George, but that's something they have to work out in the hills of South Carolina and elsewhere. But Christian referring to the 60 Minutes documentary about motorized doping, the use of motors in professional cycling, and one of the unsubtle inferences by the 60 Minutes documentary was that Lance Armstrong used, beginning as far back as 1999, motors in his bicycle during the Tour de France. So Christian trying to reassure everybody that there were no motors in those bikes, and there it is. There's the bicycle. Apparently, there's not a motor inside of it. So pretty good tweet of the week. And best of luck to Christian trying to fend off George Hincapie for the foreseeable future. Anyways, that's it for the Broom Wagon this week. Hope you've enjoyed it. You can follow me on Facebook and Twitter. Thumbs up, greatly appreciated. I would love everybody to comment. Will Nairo Quintana win the Giro Tour double and prove me wrong? Should Dave Brailsford still be the managing director of Team Sky, have any involvement in British cycling whatsoever? And will Christian continue to drop George, as he says he has done and is doing, on their rides together? All right, everybody, click on my face to subscribe, click on my t-shirts to order some merchandise, and until next time, thanks so much for watching.